Amber Alert Podcast.
Welcome back. Amber Alert Podcast, episode 99, part 2, picking up where we left off. Obviously, part 1 was just news and what's going on currently. And I told you we were going to talk about Skinwalker Ranch. So I know that this is not a new subject. A lot of people, even if you don't get into looking into UFOs or UAPs or anything like that, you've probably heard of Skinwalker Ranch. There's like a TV show about it. It's been talked about for a very long time. And the thing is, everybody knows it's weird. Everybody knows it's unnatural. And there's like something wrong with that place. And yet, it's, nothing definitive has ever like come out of there. You have all kinds of stories, which I believe are true. And it's much deeper than, it's not like Bigfoot researchers showed up and they made a show about we're tracking something. And, it's not like that. It's like there's literal government officials, police, all kinds of different people who can all attest there is something wrong with that place. There's something going on. I saw this thing with my own eyes. It's a very, very strange place. It is evil, in my opinion. Not some place you could ever pay me to go to. And it wouldn't be out of fear, because here's the thing. I believe all of this, everything that's going on at Skinwalker Ranch, is nothing more than evil spirits of some kind with a nefarious agenda. Seems to be a hot spot where things are coming into our realm and vice versa. So it's not out of fear. I'm not scared of demons. But here's the thing. You don't just go places like that and just go looking for things. That's how you get yourself into trouble. So, I know there are lists of the creepiest places, the top 10 creepiest places in America. And then you have a bunch of people in the comments like, dude, I want to go there. I don't know why you want to go there. I don't know why people go looking for things like that. You clearly don't know the source of it, or you wouldn't want anything to do with it. I know some people get a kick out of being scared. I don't like scary movies. Why would I want to get scared? I don't like fear. I don't enjoy that at all. I really don't. I went to a haunted house like one time and I did not enjoy it. In fact, I was this close to hitting someone. Like, if you touch me, you will die. I don't care if it's your job or not. I don't enjoy that stuff. I'm not sure why it's a thing. Fear is evil. Fear is a spirit and it's evil. So I don't get it. But anyway, let's get into Skinwalker Ranch. And we'll talk about, I'm only giving you facts about the place. Again, there is a TV show. You can go watch the show, which I would not do. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Plus, you have to keep in mind, I'm sure that they are taking liberties in the show. I'm sure there are embellishments anytime somebody makes a show, even if they're like, they'll say this is based on a true story and maybe one thing was true or one character was a real person, and then they take a whole bunch of creative liberties. So you don't really know if you're getting the truth or not. I'm only giving you facts here to tell you about the place. And then kind of why am I even talking about it? Well, it's more relevant than ever, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get into it. It is in Utah, for those of you who don't know. So Skinwalker Ranch is one of the most famous modern paranormal mysteries in the United States. Unlike many legends, this location has been investigated by scientists, intelligence contractors, and the U.S. government. That's how you know this thing is real. This is not a bunch of weirdos who are doing acid and then seeing things. Like, this is has gotten national attention because there's something about the place that's not right. Okay. This ranch sits in the Uinta Basin near the Ute Indian Reservation. I'm very sorry if I didn't say that right. No disrespect. The name comes from the Navajo concept of a skinwalker, which is a shape-shifting witch or spirit. Now, let me just pause, because I know when you talk about shape-shifting, you have people who are like, that's not real. Okay. It is real. Now, it doesn't just happen to anybody. If you get into the occult and you delve deep enough into witchcraft, you have people who get into shapeshifting. Typically, they're shamans, and shamans are not only Native American people. You have shamans in different cultures in different parts of the world. It's an elder, or a leader, and usually there's a blood sac. You have to actually kill someone you love, someone close to you, in order to get the power to shapeshift. And yet people do it. In fact, Native Americans know that this is real. They won't even say the word skinwalker, because in their culture, they believe if you say it, you're summoning it. You are opening yourself up to it. I'll just pause before I go on. There's a guy, I love him. His name is Chief Joseph Riverwind. He's Native American. He's a Christian, and he's, I think, an Army vet. And his wife is also Native American, but I think they're maybe from two different tribes. I'm not sure. But anyway, when he was in the Army, he was in a vehicle with, I think, 3 other people, and they were driving at night, I think maybe on their way back from a club or a party or something. This was before he was a Christian. And on the side of the road, they saw a deer, except it wasn't a deer. They were like, he knew what he was looking at. Being Native American, he knew about shape-shifting. He knew about skinwalkers. He knew what he was looking at. It was too tall. The eyes were human. It wasn't right. It wasn't shaped quite right. That thing was not a deer. He's like, I knew immediately what it was. It was a person, a shaman, someone into witchcraft and the occult, who was in the shape of a deer. There was a lady, I think this was in Africa. In fact, my pastor, I've never heard him talk about stuff like this, but this one time there was, I think he was a missionary or something like that. He was in, I believe it was somewhere in Africa, and he wanted to go hunting while he was there, and he didn't have a gun with him. You had to go rent one for the day. So he had to check it out under his name, rent the gun for the day to go hunting, and then you would turn it back in. So they know who rented what gun. Okay, so he goes hunting and he shoots a gazelle, and then turns the gun back in. And the next day, the town, this little village, is buzzing because the wife of someone in the town got shot and killed. They do the ballistics, and it goes back to the gun that missionary had used to go hunting with. And he's like, I don't know how she's dead. I shot a gazelle. And they said, don't worry about it. You're not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong. She was a witch, and she would shapeshift into a gazelle. So you didn't do anything wrong. You saw a gazelle and you shot a gazelle, but that was her. And that's why she's dead. So he wasn't guilty of anything. So I know it's weird, but it is real. But it's evil. It's the occult. And nobody should be dabbling in that stuff, okay? And again, the Native Americans know, because they won't even say the word. So this is where Skinwalker Ranch gets its name, so that you know what that is. Moving on. Why it became famous. The modern story started in the 1990s when the Sherman family, who owned the ranch, reported extremely bizarre events. Reported phenomena included large wolf-like creatures immune to gunfire. I would say that's a dog man that I know a lot of people don't believe in, but I've studied it enough to know there is something real to it, and they're not wolves. I don't think they're people either, although there could be people shape-shifting into a wolf type creature, just like they can a deer or a gazelle. But they might, I don't know if that's a person or this is its own thing, but it's evil. It's supernatural. It's not a natural animal, is what I'm saying. UFO like lights in the sky, portals opening in midair, cattle mutilations. You gotta be kidding me. Poltergeist activity inside the house, and strange orbs flying around the property. Some incidents were reportedly witnessed by neighbors and law enforcement. So again, this is not a select few isolated people, isolated cases. This is like multiple people have seen it. And notice how it's not just one thing. It's not just a UFO hotspot. It's not just a I saw a dog man or something there, or a Bigfoot, or I saw orbs. It's like all those things happening in one place, which is why I say, in my opinion, it might be the the hot spot for all of this supernatural yet evil activity happening in one place. Why? There's got to be a reason for it in the spirit. Don't know exactly what it is. I'm sure it's tied to blood and maybe the occult, likely the occult, but we'll keep reading before we get into that. What researchers claim to observe, according to investigators working on the ranch, there have been UFO sightings. Scientists reported seeing large silent craft and glowing objects moving rapidly across the sky. Cow mutilation. Several cows were found with a surgical looking cuts, organs removed, no blood around the body. Typical cattle mutilations. That's exactly what they are. These cases resemble hundreds of unexplained mutilations reported across the U.S. since the 1970s. Again, that's a thing that's not commonly reported, but if you just look it up, it's happened a lot more than you would like to think. I think the reason it's not common knowledge is because it can't be explained naturally. Even when someone discovers cow mutilations on their property, they call in the sheriff because they think like it's a crime. Someone murdered my cow, and the sheriff, detective, whoever, they can't figure it out. They're like, there's no blood. How were these organs surgically removed? Why are there no, like, this isn't right. Like, there's no bullet wound. There's no nut. Like, I don't know what happened. So they've even called in veterinarians, and they're like, I don't know how this happened either. It's unnatural. So I think they're probably deliberately kind of covered up, those stories are, because they demand an explanation that naturally no explanation can satisfy. And yet they've been reported, across the country for decades. In fact, there's a guy I know who works for the Department of Agriculture. And I asked him, I said, have you ever encountered cow mutilations? And he didn't even know what it was. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to tell you because you'll think I'm weird. Yeah, it's real if you look into it. I already read that. Next. So they've also reported strange creatures. The Sherman family described a giant wolf that walked right up to them and survived multiple gunshots. See, that's not normal. Other sightings included humanoid figures, large birds, shadowy entities. Portals have been reported. Some researchers reported blue glowing openings in the air with creatures allegedly crawling out. These claims remain controversial because no clear photo evidence exists. There's probably not going to be clear photo evidence because, again, it's something from another realm, which typically those things are not captured well on phones or in a video. You might get a glimpse of something. Usually it's not clear. That's how the Bigfoot situation is, dogman, even UFOs. Like, you can catch some things on camera, but they're usually blurry and difficult to capture because they're not, in my opinion, completely material. It's like you're seeing a blend from the spirit coming into the natural. And so the rules of physics and nature don't apply there. It's like not tangible, but kind of, and yet I believe the portals are real. And that's not the first that I've heard that. Next. Why scientists are interested. The ranch seems to show multiple types of anomalies in one place, including electromagnetic disturbances, unusual radiation spikes, unidentified aerial objects, animal mutilations. Normally, these phenomena appear separately. At Skinwalker Ranch, they reportedly cluster together, which again is why this place is so interesting. Now, I would counter that they don't always appear separately, because with the cow mutilations, they have detected radiation actually when they use their little device, whatever it's called, and they wave it over the carcass. They've picked up radiation, and then many times UFOs or orbs are spotted surrounding the time of the cow mutilation. So I don't think it's fair to say they happen separately, but it is interesting that you would think, if you're just looking at this without any prior knowledge, if everyone knows what Bigfoot is, you either believe it's real or not, Dogman is its own thing. UFOs are their own thing. Cattle mutilations, which I know a lot of people don't know about, but they're their own thing. Electromagnetic disturbances, radiation spikes. Everyone sees those as kind of their own thing. And yet I think, I think they all come from the same source, which is why Skinwalker Ranch seems to be a hub of something nefarious, something evil is tied to this place, which is why you see all of those seemingly separate things converging in one place. I think they're all tied because they all come from the same source. All of it's evil, all of it's of Satan, all of it involves evil entities, whether demonic spirits of some kind. I couldn't tell you exactly what they are, if they're disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, if it's fallen angel hybrids from this breeding program, which I think the cow mutilations are tied to, some kind. And the whole thing about creatures, I don't know. I think Bigfoot is not an animal. I think it's a real thing that people who report having seen one or encountered one, I think they're telling the truth. I really do. But I don't think it's a natural animal. I don't think it's a keeper of the forest. I don't think they're good. We would have found skeletons by now. We would have found a den they live in. We'd get samples of hair. You can't quite get to them. Same with Dogman. So I don't think they're natural animals. I think they are supernatural and they manifest in the natural. And I think that's why they're elusive and they can evade being caught on camera and being caught like in a trap or a net or something. They can just get in and out of this realm via portals, which people have reported seeing at Skinwalker Ranch. I understand that may sound crazy to people. If you've never heard of this stuff before, I promise you there's a lot more out there than you would realize on these subjects. And it comes from people who are not at all insane. Many people who are professionals, they're researchers, they're educated people, no drug history. They're just looking at facts. Okay, this has been reported. We have evidence of this, eyewitness testimony here, and you have to vet things. Obviously, people can make up stories. But how many and how many times and how many similarities from people completely unrelated, especially before we had internet or people could access what other people said. Why so many parallels? Something's going on here. There's something going on. I just think it's all nefarious, and I think it's all tied to the UFO deception that's coming. And maybe when the book of Revelation talks about the Therian, the beasts of the earth, that might be Bigfoot or Dogman, and they're here, but they're currently restrained until the time that they're released. When it goes down, like there's going to be hell breaking loose on this planet during the tribulation. So perhaps they're here, but they're restrained until that time, kind of like the beasts that are chained at the great river Euphrates, chained up until the time that they get released, which I told you guys. My sister-in-law sent me a video of a guy who was on the Euphrates River, and he said that there was a building that was on and in the water, which happens, and he said that there was something underneath it in the water that was bound, like chained up. And it freaked people out, so they fired at it. Because I think he was a Marine. They fired at it, and he said it looked like it got angry. And I was reading some comments on it, and there were people saying, like, I know this guy. He's telling the truth. Like, he didn't make this up. So can you vet that? No, you can't. But I wouldn't rule it out either. The Bible says there are things chained in the Euphrates River that are bound until the time they get released. And we're very close to when things go down in the book of Revelation. We're very close. So if we start to see the veil thinning and some of these things that are that's why if you're a denier of the supernatural, it's going to get harder and harder and harder for you to defend your position because stuff is getting obvious. Like the same with Bible prophecy. You want to deny it, it's getting very hard to do so. Why so many parallels? Why so many strange coincidences? It's going to get harder. Things are bleeding through as the time gets very close. Let me see if I read this already. Yeah. Okay. Next. Why it remains a mystery. These things make the case intriguing. Multiple credible witnesses, scientists, police, military. I told you, these people aren't insane. They're not using LSD. They're just normal people. And they're like, yeah, something's going on. I saw something. It's not normal. Government involvement, decades of reports from the same location, but skeptics point out evidence is mostly anecdotal. Clear physical proof is limited, and I believe it always will be as long as you're dealing with something supernatural. You can't just grab a demon and make them pose for a mugshot. It's not going to happen. So it remains one of the most debated unexplained places in the world, and yet everybody knows it's not right. Skinwalker Ranch, the history of the land. So the mystery of Skinwalker Ranch didn't start in the 1990s. The land sits in an area with centuries of strange legends and conflict between native tribes, which is one reason the ranch gained so much attention. So I'm telling you, probably largely the reason why this place is weird with so much supernatural activity is because blood's been spilled on the land. Next. Pre-European era, before the 1800s. The region around the ranch is part of the Uinta Basin, historically inhabited by the Ute people. However, according to tribal oral history, the area was avoided by some tribes. It was believed to be a place where spirits or entities crossed between worlds. Boom, there's where your portals come in. The Ute have stories of skinwalkers and other supernatural beings connected to the land. The term skinwalker actually originates from Navajo traditions, referring to a witch who can shapeshift into animals. We've already talked about that with the shamans. Tribal conflict era, 1700s to the 1800s. There are oral traditions that the Navajo people and the Ute fought wars in the region. Some versions of the story say Navajo shamans supposedly cursed the land during conflicts. The curse created a place where dark spirits or skinwalkers could roam. Important note, historians say this part of the story is debated because Navajo territory was mostly further south. Still, the curse story is widely repeated in local folklore. If I'm guessing or betting, if I'm a betting man, I would venture to say that curse is probably real, because permission is needed in the spirit realm. God needs your permission to act in your life. He respects laws. He gave you free will and autonomy, and he doesn't violate it. To some extent, the enemy also needs permission. People don't just get into things without permission being given at some point in some way. So if you curse something, you invite stuff in. I think, in fact, that's what the whole the Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, if you're familiar with that. I know I've done that in an episode too. They made a movie about it, which, again, the movie probably took some creative liberties, but it is based on a true story. There was this dark figure, shadowy something, creature that was evil and terrified people in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And it kept doing it until it ran into a Christian and the Christian stood up to it, and then it stopped appearing. But people told stories of that land there in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. There was a conflict, I think, between Native Americans and white settlers. Blood was spilled on the land. And then there's a curse that supposedly the chief of the tribe having trouble with the white people cursed the land, cursed that area, and then boom, there you go. So there is something real. Curses are real in the spirit. On the flip side, you can bind and loose. Those who belong to Jesus can bind and loose. Whatever you bind on earth, I'll bind in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth, I'll loose in heaven. So actually, people can speak and things take effect in the spirit. So I would venture to say, if you take that curse into consideration, you take the bloodshed into consideration. Blood is like a very high currency in the spirit. So that's maybe those are two contributing factors to Skinwalker Ranch, why it's such a hot spot for this stuff. So this I read. Yeah, okay. So in the early American settlement, late 1800s, ranchers began settling the basin. Homesteads and cattle ranches were established. Strange stories began appearing even then. Cattle disappearing, unusual lights in the sky, large predator sightings. Most incidents were never widely documented. Yeah, it was also the 1800s, so they don't really document things. They didn't back then the way we do now. But even back then, people seeing orbs and things like that, large things that don't seem right, cattle disappearing. So this is not something that happened just in the 90s when the Sherman family moved in. This was already happening on that land, which is why I wanted to look into the history of it, because I was like, I bet it didn't start with just them taking something there, so to speak. I bet you it was already weird. When I talked about Dyatlov Pass in Russia, same thing there. Same thing there. It wasn't just hikers who went missing and had, crushed ribs and internal injuries that killed them. And the one lady missing her tongue had been cut out and stuff like that. The tent cut from the inside, all the weird stuff about that. You should go look it up or listen to that episode if you don't know what I'm talking about. That case got reopened in like 2020. Anyway, sure enough, that land was considered taboo. If you look at the reports from indigenous people, the stories they preserved for centuries, that mountain is taboo. Spirits live there. You don't go there. And so the same thing the Native Americans said concerning where Skinwalker Ranch is, they're like, there's spirits there. You don't want to go there. So if you trace things back, you'll find, just because something maybe caught traction or got attention, like when they come out with a TV show, does not mean the problem started when a certain family moved in. There was like something done in that area that gave permission for weird stuff to start coming in. And if you don't believe this stuff is real, please look up CERN in Switzerland, what they're doing. They have talked openly actually about, they're doing science, and yet it's really the occult, because they've said that they have opened things by pressing in scientifically. They're trying to get into another realm. They've opened things up, and creatures, things, entities have come in from another realm. They're allowing them in, maybe allowing something out. I don't know, but you're asking for trouble, and you're going to end up like, I want to say haunted, tormented, and terrified, because you're dealing with evil entities and they're not nice, despite however they may first approach you and deceive you. They're never nice. They'll torment you. Next. 20th century reports from the 1930s to the 80s. Local residents in the basin told stories about UFO sightings, large wolf-like animals, poltergeist activity in ranch homes, cattle mutilations. These reports circulated mainly through local ranchers and tribal communities. The area became somewhat of a regional legend long before it reached national media. I honestly wonder how many places there are like that people who are local, they know things about a particular area, but it's like not common knowledge. Like everyone has heard of the Bermuda Triangle, right? But how many like areas, and it could be anywhere in the world, they know things about a certain area, but it's just never gotten national attention or international attention. I bet you there's more weird places than we even know about. But if you were to talk to local people, they'd be like, oh yeah, you don't go there. Because there's like that in like Tennessee with the whole Dogman story, and the locals, they have like a specific name for that area because they all know, and yet you can't find that story unless you like know to look for it. It's like not commonly reported. But so here's the thing. So how many people need to report seeing massive wolf-like creatures before you'll accept someone they're seeing something? How many people need to report seeing UFOs or orbs before you accept, okay, people are seeing something? Like you don't have that many people making up something when there's nothing to gain and it's not true and there's no money to be made. In fact, you get ridiculed. Usually you come forward with something like that. So they're seeing real things. Next. The Sherman family, they lived there from 94 to 96. The ranch became famous when the Sherman family moved there in 1994. They immediately experienced strange things, large wolves approaching the property, UFO-like lights, objects moving by themselves. Sounds like you got a haunted house, people. Cattle mutilations. They kept detailed journals of incidents. When the story reached the press, it caught the attention of wealthy aerospace entrepreneur Robert Bigelow, who bought the ranch. Again, I don't know why anybody would hear about what's reported at that place and be like, you know what? I think I would like to live there. I would like to buy that place and go on the land. I don't understand. UFO sightings in the basin. So the Unta Basin has one of the highest UFO sighting rates in the United States. Some researchers speculate the area may be connected to underground geological energy, military testing, or atmospheric phenomena, but none of these explanations fully account for all reports. I will say this, I wouldn't be surprised if sometimes there are what we would call natural factors when it comes to certain areas being like UFO hotspots. There might be something like, just say, when it comes to atmospheric pressure or something like that, there could be places on the earth where, given the atmospheric conditions, it is easier for something to come in and go out from the spirit realm into the natural and vice versa. That could be a thing. I don't know. Because when you read the Bible, you see that when, for example, when Peter is broken out of prison by the angel just shows up in his cell. Well, how does that happen? The laws of physics tell us you can't just dematerialize, go through an iron gate and then materialize inside a cell. And you certainly don't have shackles that just fall off on their own. And then when they go to leave, the iron gate opens on its own. None of those things are allowed according to physics, the way that we understand them. So things of the spirit, which is what angels are, this is obviously a good angel in that story, they can manipulate physics in order to get here and interact with people physically, because he hit Peter. If you are dematerialized and you go to, if I'm not materialized and I go to hit this microphone, my hand would go through it. So I wouldn't actually hit it, but yet he hits Peter to wake him up. So clearly what's spiritual can manifest in the natural. The question is just, how exactly does that work? Well, I don't know. But if good angels can do it, evil fallen angels can do it, evil spirits can do it. And so I don't know if there are certain conditions or certain places that make it easier than other places. Because, like, again, Mount Hermon, which is in Israel, which is where the book of Enoch talks about the watchers descending on Mount Hermon. They're also at the base of that. There was the Cave of Pan, that was Caesarea Philippi, where people did their pagan, they'd throw their sacrifices to the gods into that moving water. And it was like a hot spot for like pagan and occult type worship and things like that. And it happens to be at the base of the mountain where the watchers came down and corrupted humanity. So why is that place? Why is that geographical area useful to spirits from the spirit realm manifesting in the natural? I don't know. I don't know why it is. That's why I say I don't know if there are factors in the atmosphere that make like traveler access easier. I genuinely don't know. Anyway, did I read this? Yeah. Okay. So let me go to the next one. But again, I wouldn't say it's only like they can only have access where certain conditions are present. I think they'll go largely where they have an in, where they've been given permission. There's an opening there, meaning bloodshed, easy in, cursing, occult activity, easy in. You invite, that's why people don't understand why when they mess around with things like, say, tarot cards or palm reading or like the tea leaf stuff people get into. Some people don't always know that that's like the occult. They don't know that's witchcraft. And then before you know it, they've invited something in, they've given permission to something, and then they end up getting tormented. Or people playing with a Ouija board. They're like, oh, I thought it was a game. No, you allowed a dark entity to have access to you by delving into that, dabbling in that. So it's usually permission based, I think. I'm simply saying it is, I wonder if there is any natural conditions, atmospheric pressure, where it is easier to get in and out. I don't know. It's just a theory. Next. The core mystery, so the strange reputation of Skinwalker Ranch comes from three layers of history. You have Native American legends about supernatural entities, you have generations of ranchers reporting strange events, and then you have modern scientific and government investigation. That combination is why the ranch became one of the most famous paranormal hotspots in the world. So I think it's safe to say everyone can agree there's something unnatural about this place, which is why it's gotten attention from all kinds of different people for decades. The Uinta Basin Paranormal Corridor. So some researchers believe Skinwalker Ranch sits in the center of a regional cluster of unexplained phenomena in northeastern Utah and western Colorado. This area is sometimes called the Uinta Basin Paranormal Corridor. It's not an official scientific term, but investigators noticed something strange. Multiple different types of unexplained events appear repeatedly in the same region. So again, either there's some kind of permission been given in this area, or it's just like easier to get to. I would venture to say something was established here that gave access to evil spirits and fallen angels, but maybe there's something about the land or the altitude. I don't know, something like that. So there's a high concentration of UFO sightings. The basin has reported an unusually high number of unidentified aerial sightings for decades. Residents have described silent triangular craft, glowing orbs, lights moving in impossible directions, objects dropping into the mountains. That's interesting. Many sightings occur near the Uinta Mountains. Some sightings were reported by ranchers, police officers, and oil field workers. Yeah, oil field workers have seen some stuff. When you start getting out west, they're up at night. They have long shifts. They've seen some stuff, man. Next. Cattle mutilation hotspot. The region has also been a major center of unexplained cattle mutilation since the 1970s. We just read earlier that this went back to the 1800s, so it's been around. Typical characteristics reported by ranchers: surgical cuts, missing organs, no blood around the animal, scavengers avoiding the carcass. All of those are typical of cattle mutilation cases. These same patterns appear across North America, but clusters appear strongly in this basin. So again, there's something about this specific area that is drawing lots of attention, and not in a good way. Next. Just think about it. Okay. Strange light phenomena. Some locals report floating orange or blue orbs moving across fields. These are often described as basketball-sized glowing spheres, hovering silently, occasionally moving extremely fast. These reports existed long before the Skinwalker Ranch publicity. I'll say this, I don't know what orbs are. I do know that people report seeing them oftentimes when, like before they find a cattle mutilation, people have reported seeing them when they've encountered a bigfoot and they've said it was there 1 second and then it disappeared and I saw an orb and then it reappeared. So it's almost like, I don't think orbs are like UFOs. Like, I don't think they're any kind of craft. I don't know what they are, but they seem to be tied to all of these things: cattle mutilations, UFOs, Bigfoot, people seeing portals or unnatural creatures and whatnot. I'm not sure why the orbs appear, what they're doing, or what exactly they are. I don't know if there's something in the light. I don't know if the light is carrying like the essence of some kind of evil entity and it's like compressed into a little floating ball of light. I don't know. I don't know what they are. I just know they appear alongside these other unnatural things that, again, I believe are all from the same source and all evil, but I just don't know what orbs are. So there's also been magnetic and geological oddities. The basin sits near unusual geology, features like oil and gas deposits, underground caverns, magnetic mineral deposits. Some scientists think this might create electromagnetic anomalies, which can sometimes cause compass disruption, unusual atmospheric electrical effects, and a light phenomena. But this explanation does not explain animal mutilations or creature sightings. Yeah, which is why I just wonder about the natural aspect, the terrain, what's in the ground, if that has anything to do with giving access. I don't know. The Unta Mountains mystery. So the nearby Unta Mountains have long been associated with strange stories, some unusual facts. It is the only major mountain range in the US that runs east to west instead of north to south. The area contains extremely remote wilderness. It has long traditions of Bigfoot type sightings. See? Everything is in this one place. And none of them are good. None of these things are good. The region also has Native American traditions describing trickster spirits inhabiting the mountains. So it's evil. The place is evil, which is why you see all of these different things that you would think would be unrelated, and yet they are not. They're all related. The triangle and radiation spikes at Skinwalker Ranch. So one of the most talked about locations on the ranch is something investigators call the triangle. It's a roughly triangular section of land in the middle of the ranch where many unusual measurements and sightings have reportedly occurred. Let me just pause for a minute. Why is there always a triangle when there's something evil? Think of the Illuminati, how they make a little triangle with their hands. Think of even the pyramids, which I think were built by the Nephilim with fallen angel technology, triangles. Think of the Bermuda Triangle, where unnatural things happen and ships and boats have disappeared. Alaska's got their own triangle. There's a triangle of land in Massachusetts. I forget the name of it, where weird stuff happens there. And here we have a triangle where Skinwalker Ranch is. Why is there always a triangle when there's something satanic happening? Well, I think it's because Satan is a counterfeiter, right? There's something called the Divine Three, which is, it comes from really the Bible. Well, what do we have? We have Father, Son, Holy Spirit, three. You need 3 points to make a triangle. So you have the authentic, good, and powerful divine three, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, even people. We have a body. We live in a body, we have a soul, and we are a spirit. 3 things there, right? So it's like 3 is like a God created. Why? Because 3 gives something stability. It gives it strength. A threefold cord is not easily broken. So it's like there's something about the 3 that is divine, that God made, and it's good. And here comes Satan to try to counterfeit it. So here come the pyramids. Here come the triangle areas where weird, unnatural, and evil things happen. So I think if you're seeing a triangle of supernatural activity, that is further evidence there's something evil and nefarious that is tied to what's happening there. Because again, why the Bermuda Triangle, Alaska, Massachusetts, this one here, and I'm sure there are many more. Many more. You also have the whole, like, lots of like, you get into Freemasonry and lots of other occult things, you'll see triangles keep appearing and their symbolism and all kind of stuff. So it's indicative of evil, in my opinion, because Satan is a counterfeiter, because he doesn't have creative power. He can only steal and pervert what's already there that God made. Next. What the triangle is. So the triangle is simply 3 points in a field where researchers placed instruments and cameras after noticing strange events there. Investigators say many of the ranch's anomalies seem to occur above or around this specific area. So things reported there include glowing orbs appearing in midair, strange radar returns, equipment malfunctions, and sudden radiation spikes. Because of this concentration of events, the research team began focusing many experiments on this spot. Radiation spikes is another thing that they've picked up in some cases in crop circles. Electromagnetic, energy and radiation and stuff. So again, all the same source, in my opinion. So the radiation spikes researchers have occasionally reported brief spikes in radiation levels during experiments. Normally, radiation in the area is very low, background radiation, typical of most rural environments. But in some instances, instruments reportedly recorded temporary spikes for above normal background levels. Examples reported by investigators include sudden bursts detected on handheld radiation meters. Those, I think, are what they've held and waved over the carcasses from cattle mutilations, and they've picked up radiation, and or it's either that or like electromagnetic energy, and they're like, this doesn't make sense. Spikes lasting seconds to minutes, readings occurring while no radioactive source was present. These spikes have not been consistently reproduced, which makes them difficult to study scientifically. So unnatural is a safe description, I would say. The mesa above the triangle, directly above the triangle, sits a steep cliff formation called the Mesa, Skinwalker Ranch Mesa. Many sightings reported by investigators appear to originate from the airspace between the triangle and the Mesa, or from the side of the Mesa itself. Some researchers think that if something unusual is happening, the Mesa could be connected because there are caves and tunnels that may exist inside it. Strange radar signals have sometimes appeared near it. However, no clear physical source has been identified. It is interesting about the caves and tunnels. I do wonder what kinds of things are in the earth that are not natural, that perhaps are going to have their day during the tribulation or something. What's underground? What's in remote areas on the earth that I think we're going to see weird stuff come out of the Amazon rainforest, because much of it has not been explored. You can't see through the canopy. We don't know what's in there. I think you're going to have weird stuff come out of there, and that it's all going to tie in with the alien UFO deception. Everything's going to be pinned on that, I think. So they'll be making discoveries that are going to look like proof or evidence. You know, aliens have been here. They seeded us. This is why, X, Y, and Z has been unexplained all this time. It's because it's the aliens, and they've been in hiding until the opportune time, or until we're on the brink of destroying ourselves with nuclear war or whatever. So it just makes me wonder what all maybe on this earth or in the earth that is staying hidden because it's not yet its time to be revealed. And yet people have caught glimpses or had encounters. Why? Maybe because they ventured somewhere. For example, the Kandahar Giant in Afghanistan, the U.S. military was over there, and there was like a, I don't know what you'd call it. I think it was the army. There was like a troop or something, a unit, whatever. They went missing. And so they sent another one to go look for them. And they come to this mountain and they see equipment scattered around, and they realize, okay, something happened here. And next thing you know, here comes this giant with red hair running out of this cave, screaming, furious, with a spear in its hand. And one of the men moved forward and started firing at it, and it speared him and held him up like you would a fish if you go spear fishing. And so they all start firing at it, and they essentially decapitate it. And they said the smell of it was almost unbearable. And people in the army that were part of that unit have talked about this. And so, here comes a chopper. They scoop up the body, put it in a net, and they all get back. They're supposed to write their report of what happened, and they're all told what to write. And they didn't include that they saw a giant with red hair, that it killed one of their men, and then that they killed it, and that a chopper came and got it. So, and then some people said there were like 2 or 3 more giants also in the cave. I think 1 more they killed, and then 2 just somehow disappeared. So I'm guessing that would be Nephilim that's been hiding out again in a cave in Afghanistan where you're not really expecting people to go, and yet the people who live around there knew that mountain's evil. Something lives there, and you don't go there. Because that one guy, I forget his name. He's been living in America, but I can't remember his name. He was interviewed by Dr. Marzulli, and he said that his dad grew up in Afghanistan and his mom was a witch. So this guy's grandma was a witch, and she would take goats and offerings and tie them up and leave them near the mouth of the cave in the mountain so that this thing would not come down into the village and start eating people. And so this guy's dad, when he was a kid, he saw a giant footprint near the cave, and he went and said something to his mom, and his mom was like, don't go up there. You don't go up there, because she was a witch. She knew it was in there. And then other people local to the area knew. They called it like a djinn or whatever, but they knew there's something evil living in that mountain, and you don't go up there if you know what's good for you. So just makes me wonder, with how remote some of the parts of the earth are, where people don't go, or not many people go, what all things may be scattered around this earth. And who knows if they're going to be released during the tribulation, or what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't plan to be here. Next. So there have been unusual signal readings. Some experiments using radar and sensors reportedly detected objects or signals appearing in the air above the triangle. These signals sometimes appear at very high altitudes far above the ranch. In some cases, investigators claim the signals appear suddenly, then disappear quickly, without corresponding aircraft or satellites. This has fueled speculation about unknown aerial phenomena. Yeah, so we're not even just talking about things on the ground. We got stuff going on in the air. Everything about this place is unnatural. Equipment failures. Another strange thing reported around the triangle: drones suddenly losing power. When have we heard this before? Batteries draining unusually fast, GPS errors, and cameras malfunctioning. Skeptics argue this could be caused by radio interference or faulty equipment, but researchers say it has happened repeatedly. Let me just tell you, when L.A. Marzulli and his team went out to Roswell, and they had cameras to film, all their batteries that were fully charged died out of nowhere. There's a lady named Chase Sklotsky. I don't know how to say her last name. She's like a UFO researcher. She's been doing it forever. She was in a field, and I don't remember where this was. I don't know if it was even in the US, but she was in a field with other people with her. And they'd picked up like a UFO or something. And so they were trying to, I think, follow it. And she's got camera equipment, expensive, fully charged batteries. It suddenly dies. And after her stuff dies, she sees something in the grass in the field. She said maybe 6 feet from her, I think 6 feet, she saw a little gray, short alien. And the exact same ones that people describe when they're abducted, the same ones that people have drawn pictures of. And she said it terrified her. It didn't say anything. It stood there looking almost lifeless, robotic, like dead, no emotion in the eyes. And she said it terrified her. It didn't move toward her. It didn't make any threatening gestures. She was terrified. She dropped her expensive equipment and ran. And so did everybody with her. So the whole cameras, and again, I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe they are aliens. I believe they're nothing more than evil entities of some kind that are masquerading as aliens, that are wearing, I don't know, that are inhabiting a suit or something of some kind. I don't think they're like a breed or a race of aliens that live somewhere in the universe. I just don't. Everything about them, it always involves something evil happening to people. And we know who is the enemy of humanity. Well, it's Satan, it's demons, it's fallen angels. So naturally, you would expect the same source, because it's not good to abduct people. It's not good to violate them. It's not good to put people in fear. In fact, when good angels appeared to people in the Bible, they pretty much always started with, do not fear. And these things never do that. It's like they want you to be afraid. So in my opinion, that's demonic. Anyway, all of the batteries being drained all of a sudden when there's no reason for it and they were perfectly charged. It's even happened in cars, not just cameras and equipment like that. That is typical when UFOs and or little alien beings are around. And honestly, I think I think that also ties in with why people can't get clear pictures or videos of things, because it's intentionally it's intentionally veiled. There's deception in it, but there's also like an attempt to keep people from seeing clearly. And I don't know if it's just because it's something evil or if it's because the time is not yet. Like, we're not going to be revealed yet because we're just not quite ready. Our time has not come. So until then, we're going to be elusive, and we're going to not allow you to get too close and get like real proof. It's just kind of like we're in and out right now. Next, the portal creature story at Skinwalker Ranch. So one of the strangest claims connected to Skinwalker Ranch comes from investigators working for National Institute for Discovery Science, which is called NIDS. I think that's what Robert Bigelow funded. He's the guy who bought Skinwalker Ranch after the Sherman family moved in, when he heard that it was weird. This story is described by journalist George Knapp and scientist Colm Kelleher, whatever, in their book Hunt for the Skinwalker. So this is a strange story, and I'll read it once I find. Okay. So what investigators claimed happened: according to the account, a group of researchers were observing the ranch at night when they saw a glowing opening appear in the air near the property. They described it as a bluish luminous portal-like opening floating several feet above the ground, roughly oval in shape. Researchers said they could see something moving inside the opening. I have several stories about portals. I'll read first, though. The creature description. So the witnesses reported seeing a dark humanoid shape emerging from the opening. Descriptions vary, but they said the creature looked like large and muscular, covered in dark hair, moving quickly. The investigators reportedly watched it crawl out of the opening and then run toward nearby trees. So, probably don't know 100% what you're looking at. You see something at night, you don't have good lighting. You're getting like maybe a silhouette of some kind. The reaction of the investigators: the researchers were armed and fired at the creature as it ran. According to the account, the bullets appeared to have little effect. The creature continued running. It disappeared into the darkness. The glowing opening reportedly closed shortly afterward. Is that the end of the story, or is there more? Yeah. Okay. So before I keep reading, get into the next thing, as far as portals go, there was a guy, another person that L.A. Marzulli interviewed, who was abducted when he was like a teenager, I think was the first time. And he saw, it was daylight when he was taken, and he saw a portal in the sky, and then there's this UFO, and then he gets taken. He got abducted. He got, whatever they did to him. He ended up with pain in his side. He was awake when these little aliens were working on him. One of them touched him on the side, and he had burning pain there ever since. And he, again, was a teenager, so he told his mom about it, and she didn't, have any kind of explanation as to what his injury was. I don't remember how it eventually kind of got sorted out, but I think then as they came again later in his life, and at that point he was married, and I think he had become a Christian, and he called on the name of Jesus, and they weren't able to take him. But the point is, he saw a portal in the sky. Another one, in fact, I might be able to find a picture of it. Someone, but I've covered this in an episode maybe multiple times. There was a guy by the name of Scott Carpenter who was like a Bigfoot researcher. He lived in Tennessee. He would go trudging through the mountains all the time, and he would put a camera on his backpack because he realized when things would manifest, they liked to come up behind him. So in order to catch it on camera, he needed a camera filming behind him. So he'd put it on his back and walk down the trail, and he would go home then and review the footage. And in one case, you can see a portal start to take shape in front of the leaves, and there's something in it. And it looks like a Bigfoot that's crouching, that's kind of on its knees, and it looks like it's coming through the portal. So let me see if I can pull this up very quickly. I wasn't planning on showing this, but I might real quick just so you can. I don't know if that's it. He's unfortunately dead now. I actually think they got him, to be honest. And I don't even know if this is it. No, see, that's not it. I don't know if he's gonna get to it. I don't really wanna waste time on this, but whatever. If you wanna see it, because I don't really wanna take the time to find it. I did an episode on, Bigfoot. I don't know when it was, but I showed the footage, and you can see a portal, like an opening. It's like a circular, blurred, clearly defined circle with a figure in it that he caught on camera. And then, so the funny thing is he told Dr. Marzulli, Scott Carpenter had been a Bigfoot researcher for years, and he ended up telling, so he died. I'm pretty sure he was at a restaurant, and he was like in his 50s, so it was premature. He was at a restaurant with his girlfriend or something. He stood up from the table and then just fell over and died, and it was like a brain aneurysm or something. But before he died, he told Ellie that he said, these creatures are coming up to my house, and they're knocking on my house at night, and I'm terrified because, again, he'd been researching them for years. He said, but they would never come on his property. They would stay just outside the perimeter of his property, but right before he died, they were coming onto his property and knocking on his house. And LA said, I think they killed him. And I think he got too close, and he also allowed some things in his life that gave them access, just like a demon, just like an evil spirit. You give access to the enemy, he'll come in and wreak havoc in your life, make you sick, kill you early, whatever. So I don't know what all went on, but anyway, he captured some very good footage. There's also footage he got of a dog man that's pretty clear, actually. So if you're interested, go look Scott Carpenter Bigfoot portal or whatever, and you can find it on YouTube. I think his son has maybe kind of continued what Scott started. Next, the giant wolf incident, one of the first Skinwalker Ranch events. So one of the first strange incidents reported at Skinwalker Ranch happened shortly after the Sherman family moved there in 1994. This event is often cited because multiple family members witnessed it. The story was later documented by researchers connected to National Institute for Discovery Science. So again, documented by researchers. It's not just like some lunatic making something up. So what happened? The encounter. One evening, the family noticed a very large wolf-like animal in a pasture near their livestock. key details they reported: it was much larger than a normal wolf. It approached the ranch house without fear of humans and began attacking one of their calves. According to the Shermans, wolves in that region normally avoid people, so the behavior immediately seemed unusual. Almost sounds, I'm not going to say werewolf, but something, wolves of unusual size have been reported from like way back. I remember talking about it, like France, China, India. They all had stories of wolf creatures that were not natural wolves, and they were massive, and they did not act in a natural, normal way that wolves usually do. Anyway, the size, the witnesses said the animal looked enormous. Descriptions claimed it was around the size of a large bear or a very large wolf, over 200 pounds, with yellow eyes and thick gray fur. I wouldn't even say a 200-pound wolf is like impossible, that it would have to be unnatural. Wolves are pretty big. Like, I have a Saint Bernard, and he's on the smaller side. He's like 110 pounds. A lot of Saint Bernards are over 200 pounds. So a wolf being bigger than that, I don't think would make it unnatural. But if it looks like a bear, it's not really normal. The family said the animal allowed them to approach within a few feet, which is extremely unusual behavior for a wild predator. Keep going. The rancher reportedly grabbed a firearm and shot the animal at close range. According to the account, the bullet struck the animal, but it barely reacted. He then fired again with a more powerful rifle. The witnesses claim the animal did not appear seriously injured. It continued attacking the calf. It eventually walked away calmly. Yeah, that doesn't sound like normal behavior to me. If anything, you're going to run away or like fall over if you got shot, So the tracks, after the creature left, the rangers followed its footprints. They reported finding large wolf tracks in the snow. However, the tracks suddenly stopped abruptly, as if the animal had simply vanished. No continuation of the tracks was found. So that right there, in my opinion, tells you that was not a natural animal. That was probably something unnatural, something supernatural, much like a Bigfoot type situation where it's there in the physical. And yes, you can shoot at it and all that, but it can also disappear in the blink of an eye and there are no tracks, almost like they're jumping into portals or something. So why this event got attention? This encounter helped spark the later investigation because the witnesses were experienced ranchers familiar with wildlife. The animal reportedly showed no fear of humans or gunfire. The tracks ending suddenly added to the mystery. These details convinced the family something unusual was happening on the property. Yeah, no kidding. You take that incident on top of a bunch of other weird things about the place. I don't know how they lasted 2 years. Next. So the house. This was one thing I wanted to look into because every report I've heard about Skinwalker Ranch has always involved UFOs or strange creatures or cattle mutilations, but no one ever talks about the house where the people lived. And I was like, surely there had to be something weird going on in the house. So that's what I wanted to look into. So the ranch had a main ranch house. A main ranch house, barns, and livestock corrals, normal pasture land. The house itself was not unusual structurally. It was a typical rural farmhouse in the Uinta Basin. But the Shermans later said the house had some strange features when they moved in. For example, there were heavy deadbolt locks on both sides of interior doors, large chains on doors leading outside. They found this odd because people normally don't lock doors from the inside like that. I feel like that is weird. That would kind of be a little bit of a red flag if I went into any house and saw that. I'd be like, nah. I may be white, but I'm not that white. It's always white people. Oh, I heard a sound. Is someone there? I'll go investigate by myself. I'm not that white. All the black people are running out of the house. All the brown people, I'm with you guys. I'm not going with the white people to go check it out. Okay? No. So how they slept, the family lived there normally. Parents and children slept in bedrooms in the house. The father often slept lightly because livestock ranchers check animals at night. Makes sense. Sometimes family members stayed awake to monitor strange events. The house was used like any ordinary home. Okay. Sorry. I have more to read. I have to grab things one at a time at this point, but there aren't that many left. Things that reportedly woke them up. According to the Shermans, nights on the ranch often included strange disturbances. They reported being awakened by loud noises. They described hearing heavy footsteps on the roof, objects hitting the house, metal sounds near the barns. When they went outside to investigate, nothing was there. That right there should tell you there's something in this place and I don't need to be here. If you're not a Christian, okay, if you are a believer and that's happening in your house, you can rebuke it and cast it out. If you're not a Christian and that's happening at your house, what is that song? Hell no to the no, to the no, no, no. Whatever that song is, I don't know if someone made it up. That would be the attitude I would have. I would hear that if, again, I weren't a Christian. Like now that I'm a Christian, if something like that happened at my house, I'll go through every room in this house. You're leaving because this is mine. But if you're not a Christian and you don't have the blood of Christ applied to you, and that is happening at your house, you'd better get out. You have to get saved and then make it leave. You got to have a genuine Christian come in and help you or leave. Because there's something there that's not natural and it is evil. I have stories about situations like that. Let me keep reading about the house before maybe I'll tell one or two of them. But you don't just like stay, you know what I'm saying? So animals acting disturbed. They also reported livestock sometimes caused alarms at night. The family said cattle would suddenly panic. Dogs would bark at something unseen. Animals would bunch together in fear. Ranchers usually wake up when livestock are disturbed because it can indicate predators. I am telling you, if animals are reacting in panic to something invisible and your dog starts going berserk, there's demonic activity. There's demonic activity. And it may look like a UFO. It could be something you don't see anything at all. There's demonic activity. If your dog is acting like that, and even your cattle and animals are bunching together like that, again, to bring up Dyatlov Pass and Russia, that's what the indigenous people from centuries ago said. They had reindeer there, and they would do the same thing. There would be certain places they wouldn't go, and they would freak out in the middle of the night, and there's nothing visibly upsetting them. That is spirit. That is something demonic happening, like 100%. Next. So strange lights. The family also reported seeing lights through windows at night. They described glowing orbs moving across the fields, lights hovering above the ranch. Sometimes these lights reportedly woke them because the dogs reacted first. Again, the dogs know. Animals can pick up on things like that. That guy I mentioned who got abducted, his dog, he noted that when they came to get him again later in life when he was married at that point, what tipped him off first was the way his dog was acting. And I don't remember exactly what the dog did. I think he peed down his leg, and the guy's like, "What the heck?" And that's when he realizes, oh, they're going to come take me again. And that's when he, I think, called on the name of Jesus and put a stop to it. But it was his dog that tipped him off first. They pick up on it. They really do. Couple more here. Poltergeist type activity inside the house. They claimed unusual things happened. Objects moving or disappearing, voices or sounds in empty rooms, doors opening or closing. These experiences were reported mainly by family members and were not independently verified. Okay, do you really need to verify that? Or can you trust that someone's like, listen, my toothbrush was here and I found it over here and I didn't move it, so I'm freaked out. What's in my house? Moving things around. Definitely voices or sounds, and then doors opening and closing. I'm telling you, I've heard it all before. I'm not going to mention names because I don't have their permission, but I will tell you a story in a minute. Fear and stress. The Shermans said the events became frequent enough that they sometimes stayed awake at night watching the property. They kept firearms nearby. They installed extra lights and security measures. Eventually, they became so uncomfortable that they sold the ranch after about 2 years. I can't believe it took 2 years, to be honest. The buyer was Robert Bigelow, who began organized investigations through the National Institute for Discovery Science. I'm guessing he did not go live in the house on the ranch. I don't know. I didn't look that up, but I'm guessing if you're a billionaire, you probably had somewhere else to live. And then there's the Navajo curse story. So a popular legend says the Navajo people cursed the land during a conflict with the Ute. The story claims Navajo shamans cursed the basin and unleashed skinwalkers there. I believe it, to be honest. But historians point out Navajo territory was mostly hundreds of miles south. There's little historical evidence this cursed story actually happened. Whatever, I think it did. Because I think that explains why you have a hotspot of supernatural yet very evil activity, all concentrated in one place, including a demon-possessed house. So going back to that, again, I'm not going to mention who this was because I don't have their permission, but I know this is like personal because I know the person personally. And people very close to me know the person even better. So this person was, I don't know how much to tell. It's not like anyone would know who it is, but long story short, they clearly had a demon-possessed family member. Clearly, okay? This person throws a fit, and one person moves out of this house, okay? Demon-possessed person involved. Someone moves out of this house, so there's one person left living in this house alone. And right after this goes down, they start having weird things happen in the house, right? Stuff is moved around, exactly how these people reported. Doors are open that were left shut and all that kind of stuff. So they're like, something's up, something's in this house. And then I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the final straw that got them to finally be like, I'm getting someone to help me, was they came home one day and there was like an owner's manual to a Volkswagen Rabbit, a car. Those aren't even around anymore, but they didn't own one. It wasn't theirs. So if I remember correctly, there was contact information written on the inside of it. And they called the number and said, do you own a Volkswagen Rabbit? And the person said, well, I used to. But I totaled it years ago. Why do you ask? And I think they were just like, never mind. What am I going to do? Tell you I found it in my house that I think is like haunted or whatever. And there was no shelf or anything it could have fallen off of. It was just like in the house and no sign of a break-in. So they're like, all right, something's in here. So they and this other person who I know very well, they went to the elders of their church, explained the situation. And the one guy was like, well, obviously, given how that family member acted, clearly demon possessed, you've just got a demon in your house. He said, so go through every room of the house, command anything unclean to leave in the name of Jesus. And there you go. So he and this person I know went through every room in the house, command anything dark or evil to leave in the name of Jesus, go to sit down. And the person I know sat down on the couch, which was in front of, had a window behind it, and outside the window is the front porch. So they get done praying. This person sits down on the couch and hears footsteps on the porch going down the steps away from the house. So they turn around, pull the curtain. Nobody's there. But they physically, audibly heard something leave after cleansing the house in the name of Jesus. I also have a friend, I don't think she'd mind me telling this, so I'll say her name. My friend Celeste, years ago, she took a job at a store called Tuesday Morning. I don't know if those stores are around still or not, but anyway, she was the new manager, and she said the store was very strange. Weird things happened. There'd be like crystal figurines that would fly off shelves and break, and no one touched them. So she's like, what's this about? And the staff told her, they had a name for it. They're like, oh, that's just such and such. And she's like, well, who's that? What is this? And they're like, well, that's we call it, it's like the spirit of, I forget it. There was, I think, a former manager who had like died on the job or something like that. I can't remember, but it was like tied to a former employee. So they gave it a name. And literally all the staff just thought this is like the spirit of that person. And yeah, they make weird things happen in this store. So it's kind of like haunted, but like whatever. And my friend Celeste, being a spirit-filled Christian, she's like, I'm here now, and that's not going to stay. So she goes around the store. She anoints it with oil. She commands anything to leave that's dark or unclean in the name of Jesus, and all the problems leave after that. No more figurines flying off the shelves. No more weird things moved around. No more sounds. All that stuff. I'll give you another one. I've played the video, actually. You can find it. Lester Sumrall, someone who I can't wait to meet him in heaven. I respect him almost more than anybody. He was everything a Christian should be. Anyway, he was in the ministry. He was an evangelist. He traveled all over the world. And the funny thing is, when he got into ministry as a young man, very young, he was overseas. I think this happened in China, maybe. Some girl, he was having a meeting to evangelize, and some girl started manifesting a demon. She had green foam coming out of her mouth, and he was like, he's again young and like kind of new to this, so he looked around expecting someone else to take care of it, like someone else go cast the devil out of her, like, and no one did anything. Everyone was just trying to act like it wasn't going on. He's like, you gotta be kidding me. And it was terrible. It was terrible to see. So finally he goes down there, he rebukes it. And I don't even know if he cast it out, but he maybe just said like, shut up. And you can tell the demon like in her eyes, like was like, oh. So she sat down and was quiet. And he did end up casting it out of her. And he said it was unpleasant. And he was praying later. He's like, Lord, that was terrible. I don't want to do that ever again. Like, I don't ever want to run into a demon-possessed person and have to cast a devil out of somebody ever again. That was terrible. Little did he know. Little did he know he'd cast devils out all over the world, and become one of the best teachers of how to do deliverance in ministry as a Christian. And there's the famous story of Clarita Villanueva in the Philippines. She was a teenage girl who ended up in jail for prostitution, and she was demon possessed. It was either one or two spirits, I don't remember, but they were very like powerful, I guess. And they would bite people. People die. She'd look at people and say, "You're gonna die." Within a few days, they would die. It made the national headlines, and he heard about it Lester Sumrall was in the Philippines starting a church because the Lord had sent him there to start a church. He was in Manila. And so he hears about it on the radio because people are like, this girl's possessed and it's killing people and it's terrible. So he hears on the radio and he thought, well, that's really sad. Goes back to what he's doing. And the Lord spoke to him and he said, go help that girl. And he was like, I can't, Lord, I'm busy building a church. Remember, you sent me here to build a church. So I can't go. And the Lord said, I want you to go. If you don't go, she's going to die. And Lester Sumrall was like, well, that's too bad. Then send somebody else. And the Lord said, I don't have anyone else. And Lester Sumrall said that broke his heart like nothing ever had. So he said, I'll go. So he goes to the jail where she is. And sure enough, bad case of possession. And the spirit is threatening him through her mouth and all this stuff, and pretty wild deliverance. I'm pretty sure he wrote a book about it. But anyway, ends up getting her free. And years later, he checked on her. She was married, and I think he even asked her husband, so how is everything? Anything like that ever happened? And the husband said, no, it's like nothing. She's like 100% delivered. So anyway, I've told this story and I've played the video where he can tell it himself, but I don't know why I like this story so much. I think because I liked his personality. So he's in heaven now. Anyway, he stayed in the home of this couple out in Colorado because he was there to preach or something. So they opened up their home to him, and he's in this back bedroom, right? So he wakes up at like 2:30 in the morning, and he opens his eyes, and there's something standing in the doorway. And it was a figure with long blonde hair wearing a nightgown. And he thought, that's strange because the door is shut and she's not using the door. So he flips the lights on, and it disappeared. It's not there. He thought, okay. So he said, well, he said, I thought I'll go looking for it. So he thought, the first thing he thought was, there are like a dead man's bones or something that I'm gonna find. So he goes into the closet. He's like pulling up this little compartment in the floor, and he's looking in there for bones, and he doesn't find anything, but he's like looking for signs of like a body. And I'll tell you why, because he then goes in the morning, he goes down and he's talking to the couple who own the house, and he told them what happened. And he said, there was a murder in this house. And the guy was like, no, there wasn't. And he's like, I'm telling you, someone was murdered in this house. And he's like, no. And then the wife is listening, and she speaks up. She said, actually, she said, when you're gone during the day, she said, I hear sounds in this house, and there's no one here but me. And there's something happening. But I'm telling you, there is something in this house. So the guy then decided to talk to his neighbors, and they said that there was a Swedish doctor who'd lived in that house before they did. And his wife, this doctor's wife, supposedly shot herself and killed herself in the exact place where Lester Sumrall saw this spirit, right there in the doorway of that back bedroom. And yet many of the neighbors and the people around that area thought he murdered her and she didn't kill herself, because the whole situation was weird. And then he took off and left as soon as she died. And so people were like, yeah, we don't think she killed herself. We think he did it. And Lester Sumrall said, well, that's it. Blood. I knew it. Blood was spilled in this house. And that's what has invited an evil spirit here. It's tied to that. And so he said, we have a couple options here. If you want, I'll command this thing to leave, and it'll leave your house, or you guys can move, because it's here and it's tied to this house because of what happened here. So, if I remember right, I think they maybe ended up moving or something. But the point is, supernatural spiritual and demonic activity is in a place, usually because of bloodshed or occult rituals and things like that is invited in. And in the case of Skinwalker Ranch, as we've read all this stuff about it, seems to be a lot has happened in that very place, from the house to the land, the cattle, what goes on in the sky, the creatures people have seen. There's a lot going on there. I don't know exactly why, but I would say bloodshed. I would say curses, like the Navajo people reported. I'll tell you one more demonic story, because this just happened. So my pastor, I don't know the city. He intentionally has not told us the city because he was there to see some people and they wanted to remain anonymous. So he's not telling us the city, but, he flew there, and as he was, I think they were going to leave and he was going to his plane. He and his daughter was with him, and there was a security guard there. So we've got witnesses, even if you didn't believe him. So they're going to leave, and they hear this sound, and it sounded like a little kid getting strangled. It was just a weird, very unnatural, disturbing sound, but it was coming from the top of a 5-story building. So, a bobcat can't get up there, or a cougar or whatever, because his dad, my pastor's dad, is an outdoorsman, and he knows all about like every kind of animal. And he was describing it to him, and he said that sounds like a bobcat or a cougar or something, and yet it couldn't be up on a 5-story building in the middle of a city. So anyway, my pastor's just joking around when he heard that sound, and they were like, that's weird. He said, Jeffrey Epstein, is that you? And he's kidding, because it sounded like a kid being attacked. So he's just joking around. And the security guard with them goes, his eyes got big. He said, do you know his plane's in there? How'd you know that? And my pastor's like, I didn't know that. You just told me that. And he's like, do you want to see it? And they were like, all right. So he swipes his little card. They go in and there's the Lolita. And he said, he said, I was kidding, but I obviously picked up something in the spirit because I didn't know his plane was there. I think he had two. One of them's been scrapped and one of them someone bought. So it's got to be the one someone bought. But anyway, he said, now that I put all that together, I think that was probably a demon making that weird sound. And perhaps, obviously tied in with Jeffrey Epstein, who was one of the most evil people to live, did some of the most heinous things that you've ever heard of. So anyway, that's the scoop on Skinwalker Ranch. Like I said, there's a TV show about it. I would not recommend watching it. It's one thing to talk about it and know what it is. It's another thing to consume content about it, which is not something that I would do. And again, like going to these places, don't do it. There are actual evil things in certain places and you don't go there. If you're a Christian and the Lord specifically commands you to go someplace, that's one thing. But you don't just like go looking for this stuff. So anyway, I think it's for whatever reason a hot spot where the evil things come in, or easily accessible in that area for whatever reason, coming in from the spirit realm, and that's why there's a hot spot of activity there. I don't 100% know why, but I think everything about it is evil and nefarious. It's interesting. I don't know if there have been any abductions there in that area, but again, I don't think aliens are real. I guarantee you, I know the theories are out there about the Anunnaki, which was supposedly like a race of some type of aliens from, I don't know, like Sumerian tablets or something, very ancient, writes about them. I think what they wrote about was just fallen angels. And the alien lie is coming. The alien deception's absolutely coming. There's been so much predictive programming. There's disclosure that's happening. There's going to be a counterfeit. There's going to be an alternative offered to the Bible, the creation story, the power source, all of it. And so I think with the growing interest and the increasing disclosure, the alien deception is going to be what's going to be one of the things that will lead a lot of people into deception, because they'll accept the narrative that aliens put us here on planet Earth. They are our predecessors or whatever. And so now they're back and they're going to usher us into the next, the golden age. We'll get the Christ consciousness, which is the occult, essentially get a DNA boost, a little upgrade. You just need to be like them, right? Might show up. If the whole church gets raptured, you're going to have millions of people disappearing, in a moment. So they could show up then. People will be in confusion, fear. I think for sure the rapture will cause the collapse of the United States, because our economy, the workforce, everything. I think that'll collapse the United States. I think that would be perfect opportunity for them to show up and try to bring stability, try to bring answers. And the answers will be probably that people are gone because they were not compatible with the earth changes that are coming. So they've been removed or taken somewhere else. So you're going to have people who are going to buy it, or they could be tied to a nuclear event, because it seems like there are lots of UFO sightings, lots of that kind of activity around nuclear sites. And it's amazing how the whole UFO thing exploded right around the time of right after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the whole Roswell thing happened where the 509th bombing group was, who were the only ones with nuclear capabilities. They were the ones who dropped the bombs. And it's interesting, it happened right before Israel becomes a nation again. For people who are naysayers, I promise you, look it up and you will see the prophetic significance of Israel signaling the end times. So many things broke loose in the 1940s, right around the time of the reestablishment of Israel. And so the 40s was a crazy decade full of very, very significant events. But anyway, if a nuke goes off, that would also maybe be an opportune time for them to show up, because people will be in the greatest state of fear they've ever been in. Oh my gosh, nuclear war. What are we going to do? Oh, well, here come our alien friends who seeded us here, and they're going to keep us from destroying the planet and destroying ourselves. So we got to just align with them, whatever this agenda is, which of course, there will be an antichrist and it's all going to go down. You would, if you're not familiar with Bible prophecy concerning the end times, I promise you, it's fascinating. It will help you understand what's happening now. Keep yourself from being deceived. You want to understand what's happening, and the Bible has the answers, because it's the word of God. It's the truth. And please, for the love of God, please, if you are a Christian, or even if you're not, but you care about truth, if you like the Bible, if you kind of think it's true, whatever you do, do not fall for it when they produce manuscripts or artifacts or something that's going to directly challenge the Bible, and it's going to call into question the deity of Jesus Christ. Because if you're able to take that away, because even Islam, they recognize Jesus as a great prophet, but it's just that he was the Son of God, and it's that he died on the cross and rose again. Of course, as long as you can remove the deity from Jesus, you can have a Jesus character. And so please don't fall for it, because I guarantee you there is deception coming that's going to attack the Bible. It's already happening with so many people who actually believe the Bible was hijacked at some point by evil Zionists, and they've changed the Bible to get evangelical Christians to blindly support Israel when God never had intentions for Israel. That is not true. First of all, we have thousands of manuscripts to refer to. Okay. Second of all, you really think, if you believe in God and that he's all powerful, you really think that he couldn't have stopped that from happening, that someone could successfully hijack his word and change it for nefarious purposes? Think again. It's been working for 2,000 years. The Bible we have has built the church. The church is still here. The church is getting more powerful. The church is still being built up and increasing. You can't change the word of God. So please don't fall for it when they introduce something that directly challenges scripture, and especially the deity of Jesus. I promise you that deception is coming. Don't fall for it. Please don't. And I'm sure aliens will be mixed in with it somehow, because it's coming, and they are demonic. They are evil. Don't fall for it. They'll have evidence. They'll have a body or something. Who knows? Maybe someone will get into Wright Pat in Dayton, and they'll get sneaky footage of bodies of aliens, maybe the ones from Roswell. Who knows? They'll have evidence. It's going to be a very, very, very convincing deception. It's going to work on a lot of people. Please don't fall for it. Cling to your Bible. Consume it. The answers and the truth are in there, and it's the only way to equip yourself and to keep from being deceived. That book will save you, not only for eternity if you receive Jesus, but while you're here on earth. It's going to keep you secure. It's going to keep you safe. You'll know what not to do. Just trust it, is all I can say. In fact, I'm going to get into the Bible, but that's going to be in part 3, which I'll start here in a little bit. I'll pop these up because we're going to end part 2. The ways to contact me, follow, whatever. I'll be uploading to Substack and YouTube and Spotify once I get done for the night, but we still have part 3 to get into from the Bible. So I'm not going to do it just yet, but those are all the places where I exist, as well as my email address. If you want to email me and tell me that I'm deceived because I'm reading a Schofield Bible that was created by Jewish Zionists, and that dispensationalism is heresy. First of all, I had never even heard of a Schofield Bible until recently, and I don't read one. Okay. Anyway, and for the record, I don't think there's anything wrong with it either. It's just like notes. Okay. We have the manuscripts, guys. Don't fall for that. All right, please. Anyway, these are the ways to support Amber Alert Podcast. If you want to, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, any one of those three will work. As I said before, I am not a ministry. I'm not affiliated with anybody. This is me by myself. And the only reason I'm doing this is because the Lord literally told me to. He had to tell me 3 times before I was obedient, and I would not be doing it had I not been commanded by him. So if he ever tells me to stop, then I'm going to stop, because this eats up actually quite a bit of my time. And I'm only doing it out of obedience, but those are, if you want to support, those ways you can. All right. It's 8:05. I'm going to come back at 8:20 for part 3. We're going to get into the Bible, and yeah, that's it for part 2. God bless you. I'll see you in part 3 at 8:20. It'll be a new live stream video by itself. X, Rumble, and Instagram. All right. Bye-bye.